Shalom everyone. Today we're going to take a look at Jeremiah 31 and try to find out what relationship, if any, does it bear with Hebrews 8:8. We know what Hebrews 8:8 says. It talks about a new covenant that was given to the house of Israel and Judah, and this relates to the Messiah of the New Testament coming and making that new covenant. But after reading Jeremiah 31 today, we're going to find out if that's what it's saying. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start reading. I'm at BibleGateway.com and I just chose Jeremiah 31 from the King James Version. Okay, and it says, starting at verse 1, it says, "At the same time, saith Yahuah, will I be the Elohim, meaning the judge or ruler of all families of Israel, and they shall be my people. Thus saith Yahuah, the people which were left of the sword found grace, or what we call compassion, in the wilderness, even Israel, when I came to cause him to rest." We're going to see, if you have not seen it as yet, we're going to see that it's talking about a futuristic event relating to the end times. Verse 3, Yahuah had prepared of old, Yahuah have appeared of old unto me, saying, Yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love, therefore with loving kindness have I drawn thee. Talking about the house of Israel. Again I will build you, and you shall be built, O Virgin of Israel. You shall again be adorned with tabrets, and shall go forth in the dances of them that make merry. It's talking about a restoration in the end times. Now let's continue to read. You shall yet plant vines upon the mountains of Samaria. The planter shall plant and shall eat them as common things. And we know that Samaria was the old capital of the northern kingdom. For there shall be a day that the watchmen upon the mount Ephraim shall cry, Arise you, and let us go up to Zion, unto Yahuah our Elohim. Zion is a place where Yahuah chooses to dwell in Jerusalem. His presence is not there currently, but he's gonna restore his mountain, restore Jerusalem, and return his people back to the land so that they can dwell with him. And there's many references to that in scriptures, claiming Zion or Mount Zion as his home, as his dwelling place, as it relates to his people. And as far as Zion being the dwelling place of his people and Yahuah, we're going to read that also in Jeremiah 31. Verse 7 says, For thus saith Yahuah, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. Publish you, praise you, and say, O Yahuah, save thy people, the remnant of Yasharal. Behold, I will bring them from the north country, and gather them from the coast of the earth, and with them the blind and the lame, the woman with child, and her that travaileth with child together. A great company shall return near. So there's going to be a gathering from all parts of the world that his people are scattered. They shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn, my chosen, or my elect. Hear the word of Yahuah, O you nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, He that scattered Israel shall gather him, and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. So we are seeing the Most High scattered his people Israel into the nation, and he says that I'm going to gather them as a shepherd keeps his flock. So we're seeing one of the many attributes of the Most High as far as gathering his people is is that he is a shepherd. He's going to play that role as a shepherd to gather his people. And remember that the nation of Israel, if we look at the 12 tribes, since they were from the sins of Jeroboam onwards, they were all taken out of the land, scattered into the nation, and they became as the nations, sometimes referred to as Gentiles in scriptures. Verse 11, for Yahuah had redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. So it says Yahuah have redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand that was stronger than he, speaking of his enemies. But the way it's written as if it's in the past tense, but I'm just going to read from the scriptures. You're not going to see it, but I'm just going to read to show you that it makes even more sense as far as the translation, to show you that it's talking about a futuristic event that will happen. Unlike verse 11, reading from the King James Version, which seems to imply that it is something that happened already. And that's Jeremiah 31, verse 11, reading from the scriptures. And this is what it says. It says, for Yahuah shall, that word shall is telling us that it's futuristic, shall ransom Jacob and redeem him from the hand of one stronger than he. Therefore they shall come and sing in the height of Zion. Again, Yah's dwelling place for his people, for himself and his people, and shall flow together to the goodness of Yahuah for wheat, and for wine, and for oil, and for the young of the flock, and of the herd, and their soul shall be as a watered garden, and they shall not sorrow any more at all. Their soul is gonna prosper like a watered garden. And we're gonna return back to the old, what we call the old times, the day when we basically just lived off the land. We lived in an agro-industrial society. We're going to return back to that. So we're going to have the shepherd's going to be there, and we're going to have planting wheat and all kind of different agricultural produce, along with livestock, having our livestock. So it's going to be just like in the days of old. Verse 13 says, then shall the virgin rejoice in the dance, both young men and old together. For I will turn their mourning into joy, and will comfort them, and make them rejoice from their sorrow. As we know, in this captivity, it's a sorrow, it's just pure heartache, it's just pain, it's just cannot be described. So we're a sorrowful people in the captivity, but Yahuah says He's going to return all of that. I'm sorry, He's going to turn back all our sorrows and give us joy when He returns us to the land. And I will satiate the soul of the priest with fatness, and my people shall be satisfied with my goodness, saith Yahuah. Thus saith Yahuah, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping, Rahel weeping for her children, refused to be comforted for her children, because they were not. Thus saith Yahuah, refrain thy voice from weeping, and thine eyes from tears, for thy work shall be rewarded, saith Yahuah. And they shall come again from the land of the enemy. And there is hope in thine end, saith Yahuah, that thy children shall come again to their own border. So from verse 15 to 16, or rather 17, we're seeing something that's happening within the spiritual realm. The prophet is relating what Yahuah has revealed to him. Rahel, the mother of Yahshua, she was weeping within the spiritual realm, and Yahuah was giving her an answer. Said, listen, do not cry for your children, because there's going to be a reward for them. They're going to be There's going to be a blessing for them. They're going to return back to their borders. So don't cry for them. So that's some spiritual, deep spiritual implications. For most of us, we can only see with the physical eyes, but there's a lot of spiritual things happening that the naked eye cannot see. And this was one of them in scriptures. But this was a beautiful picture revealed to the prophet Jeremiah in this instance. Verse 18, I have surely heard Ephraim bemoaning himself. Thus, you have chastised me, and I was chastised as a bullock unaccustomed to the yoke. Turn you me, and I shall be turned, for you art my Elohim. Surely after that I was turned, I repented, and after that I was instructed. I smote my thigh, I was ashamed, yea, even confounded, because I did bear the reproach of my youth. So Ephraim is saying, this is a heavy burden, but they're gonna repent. As a people, they're gonna repent, and they're gonna be like ashamed because of all their sins. When they come to find out how sinful they were living, they're gonna repent and be ashamed. Now, verse 20 is saying, "Is Ephraim my dear son?" This is what the Most High is saying through the mouth of the prophet Jeremiah. Is Ephraim my dear son? Is he a pleasant child? For since I spake against him, I do earnestly remember him still. And therefore my bowels are troubled for him. I will surely have mercy upon him, saith Yahuah. Compassion. Set thee up waymarks, make thee high heaps, set thine heart toward the highway, even the way which thou wentest. Turn again, O virgin Israel, turn again to these thy cities. Set up landmarks, because the way that you went, you're going to return. How long will you go about, O you backsliding daughter? For Yahuah has created a new thing in the earth, a woman shall compass a man. Thus saith Yahuah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, as yet they shall use this speech in the land of Yehudah and in the cities thereof, and I shall bring again their captivity, meaning turn their captivity. Yahuah bless thee, O habitation of justice and mountain of holiness or set apartness. So this is something we're going to say when we return back to the land. We're going to say, wow, this place is a baraka or a blessing. And there is justice in this place. Not like when we're in the captivity, where there's just lawlessness and sorrow and pain. And there's no beauty around us for the most part. But this land that we return to, Mount Zion, the set apart mountain of Yah, it's gonna be the beauty of our lands. Okay, so that's what we are seeing. So we're gonna say, wow, Yahuah bless this land and bless the habitation where justice dwell. Bless this land. And there shall dwell in Yehudah, in verse 24, and there shall dwell in Yehudah itself and in all the cities thereof together, husbandmen, meaning farmers, and they that go forth with the flocks, shepherds. For I have satiated the weary soul, and I have replenished every sorrowful soul. Hallelujah. There's a baraka of blessing that Yahuah is going to give his people that we cannot even yet imagine. And so far we have read from verse 1 to 25, and we're not seeing any mention, or it does not make any mention of a Messiah coming and dying for us. So I want everyone to continue reading. There are 40 verses, and so far 25 has not made any mention of that. 26 says, upon this I awaked and beheld, and my sleep was sweet unto me. Behold, the days come, saith Yahuah, that I will sow the house of Yasharal and the house of Yehudah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast. What this is saying is that he's going to increase his people and also the beasts. You're talking about the cattle, livestock. There's going to be an increase because the land is going to prosper again. We're going to return back to the land. It's going to be built up and be restored just like its people. So everything is going to go back again to the days of old when our forefathers dwelt in the land. 28. And it shall come to pass that like as I have watched over them to pluck up and to break down and to throw down and to destroy and to afflict, so will I watch over them to build and to plant, saith Yahuah. Yes, he punished us and he afflicted us tremendously, but he's gonna build or restore us and set us back in our land. That's the premise of Jeremiah 31 up to verse 28 so far. Restore our people back to their heritage and back to their land. Verse 29. In those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten a sour grape, and the children's teeth are set on edge. This was a proverb used against our forefathers and their children because of their stubbornness. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Every man that eateth the sour grape, his teeth shall be set on edge. And I have to stop and make mention here. This definitely matches Deuteronomy 24:16, that the soul that sinneth shall die. So we are seeing here Yahuah says, listen, this proverb is not going to be used anymore because the soul that sinneth shall die, as Ezekiel 18 says, Deuteronomy 24:16. So Yahuah is not in the whole idea of having someone come and die for us. That's clearly the case we're seeing here. Even Ezekiel 20 verse 38, he says he's gonna return his people back to the wilderness, and he's gonna root out the rebels from among his people, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. So if we stop and think, how did some man come and die for us? Okay, when Deuteronomy 24 clearly tells us that the father should not be held responsible for the sins of the children, and vice versa, the children should not be held responsible for the sins of the fathers. Let's move on. Verse 31 says, behold, the days come, saith Yahuah, that I will make a new covenant. This is what folks look at and says this match Hebrews 8:8, because we're told that from Christianity. It says, behold, the days come, saith Yahuah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. He's making a covenant with a people, the Israelites. But as we know, the kingdom was split between the northern and the southern kingdom because they went into captivity up to this day. And this covenant is no different from the covenant that was expressed in Ezekiel 37, when the prophet Ezekiel was given the vision of the two sticks being joined together. And in summing up that covenant, what it meant is that he's going to join the kingdom, restore our people, his people, the Israelites, us today, back to the land, and set up David as their king. So Jeremiah 31:31 is setting up the what I call the, not necessarily premise, but well, we could say it's setting the premise for what the new covenant is, so we can have that understanding. And I'm going to read it over. It says, behold, the days come, talking about the latter days, the end times, saith Yahuah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yahudah, not according to the covenant I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith Yahuah. Remember, when our people left Egypt, they had everything that they needed to make them live, and that was the Torah. The instruction was given to the Mosai, given by the Mosiah, particularly through the hand of Moshe, through the mouth of Moshe. Our people had everything they needed, but they would commit adultery, they would vex a stranger, they would do human sacrifice, make their children pass through the fire, which Yah strictly forbid. If you read Jeremiah 32 after 31, which I'm not going to read, it tells you that this was one of the things he hated that our people were doing: human sacrifice. Okay, so he's saying that you had all the instruction, but you never do them. You rebel against them, so that wasn't working out. So everything was there, including the blood sacrifice. Everything, all instruction. We had the order of the temple, the prince, the priest with the blood sacrifice. We have the Torah that teaches us what was right from wrong. But again, we rebel. So what Yahuwah did, he cast away the land away from him, and the city, he cast it out of his sight, and the temple. So no longer we have the blood sacrifice with us anymore, because Yahuwah is going to do a work in us and restore us that we could not do ourselves. And apart from Jeremiah 31, Ezekiel 36:24 onwards, let us know this. So between Jeremiah and Ezekiel and many of the prophets, the same sentiment is expressed, although slightly differently. So I hope everyone is seeing a picture or getting the idea of what the new covenant is about. And we're gonna get some more information on this. It says, "But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith Yahuwah, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, in their minds, and they will be and I'm sorry, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people." Are we seeing a new covenant? He's going to do a work in us. If we could just get this, what we were taught through Christianity, from out of our mindset, and start to read the word for what it is, and ask Yahuwah for understanding, then we would not be caught up in a lot of, what we call, what I believe is idolatry, by looking towards another and serving another. Yahuwah is clearly saying, I'm going to do the work in my people. I'm going to put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And here it says again in 34, "And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahuwah. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahuwah. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more." So Yahuwah is the one who's going to put his law in our hearts, so that we're going to reach at a point where we don't have to get up and teach each other, "Hey, do you know Yahuwah? What's his name? Is it Yahweh, Yahuwah? Does he have a son? Does he not have a son?" And many questions that we have, they'll be answered because we'll be on one accord. Yahuwah is going to make sure, for our sake, to save his elect, the house of Israel, comprising of the house of Judah and the 10 tribes, which is also known as Israel. But collectively, it's the house of Israel, or the house of Jacob. He's going to do something in us that we could not have done for ourselves, a new man assumedly came and do for us. Verse 35 says, Thus saith Yahuwah, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon, and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahuwah forces his name. So Yahuwah is saying, listen, I've set it a law for the sun to shine by day and the moon to shine by night. And if those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahuwah, then the seed of Israel shall cease from being a nation before me forever. Yahuwah is saying, as long as the earth exists, the sun will shine and the moon will give its light. And if this will ever depart, then Israel, the nation of Israel, will exist no more. Isaiah 45 verse 17 says that Israel shall be saved with an everlasting salvation by Yahuwah, world without end. So his nation, the covenant is for his nation, his people, the house of Israel. An everlasting covenant. 37 said, Thus saith Yahuwah, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith Yahuwah. If it was for his compassion and his mercy, and if the expanse of the earth could be measured, then it would have cast off the house of Israel. But we know Yahuwah can do that, but no man can do that, irrespective of how science have increased and whatever increase we have in the sciences or whatever field of academics. No man can come forward and try to measure the entire expanse of the earth, of the universe. And that's why Yahuwah says his covenant with his people, the Israelites, will stand forever. Again, we've just read up to verse 37, and there's no mention of any, we are not seeing this covenant relating to any Messiah that will come and die for us. Again, I'm asking my brothers and sisters who are of the house of Israel to look at this carefully. Put away everything that you have learned and pray and ask Yahuwah for understanding, and say to him, humble yourselves and go before him and ask him, is there something I'm missing? Reveal to me. That's what I had to do to come to this understanding. I had to humble myself, and he revealed to me this and so much more. But let's continue reading. And it says in verse 38, Behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that the city shall be built to Yahuwah from the tower of Ananil unto the gate of the corner. And the measuring line shall yet go forth over against it upon the hill Gareb, and shall compass about to Gohath. So these are areas in Jerusalem that's going to be rebuilt, even though we might not know the specific location of these places, but it's all going to be part of that region. Jerusalem, Mount Zion, where Yahuwah dwells, and he will take his people back there, and we will dwell with him forever. And it says, and the entire valley of the dead bodies and of the ashes and all the fields unto the brook of Kidron, unto the corner of the horse gate toward the east, shall be set apart unto Yahuwah. It shall not be plucked up nor thrown down any more forever. What it appears to be saying here is that there's going to be a region that's set apart in Mount Zion or Jerusalem. It's going to be set apart unto Yahuwah. And when it talks about dead bodies, it could be making references to the sepulchres of our forefathers that will remain undisturbed, and other regions that are, like I said, that's set apart unto Yahuwah. So we have finished the reading, and it's very clear. It's very simplistic. Yahuwah is not the author of confusion. We have just read entire 40 verses, and we're not seeing any indication that a covenant was made with his people through a man who would come and die for us. But instead, Yahuwah is saying, I'm making a covenant with my people. I'm going to restore them, return them back to Mount Zion, build them up, and restore them, and just cause them to dwell forever in the land of their forefathers. And I can't get it any simpler than that. And I hope everyone has seen this wonderful picture of restoration for his people, and it's all over scriptures. And with that, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and I'll be definitely putting up some more video as Yahuwah allows me.